Welcome to Bucket List Careers, the podcast. I'm Krista Laurie. Thanks so much for joining me. This is episode 175. We're in studio today with Andrea Della Mura. She is owner of the DRIPBaR in Rye, New York. Thanks so much for coming in, Andrea.
And thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I've heard so many people tell me, you have to have this rock star entrepreneur on your show, not only because she's in Rye, close to the Mamaroneck studio, but because you've got such a great story to share with us. And we want to dial it back. We want to hear about pivotal moments. We want to talk about you being a two-time cancer warrior. I noticed you used warrior, not survivor, when you wrote that down for me. Mom of two, and now you have this vitamin IV therapy business. Yeah. So let's dial it back to begin. You were a fashion buyer in your early years?
You know what? It wasn't that fancy, actually. It was more textile and technology.
Garments.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's really where I started. I had such a great opportunity to travel in my early 20s, and I love what I did. I really did.
Were you in New York City? Because I know you live in Rye now.
No, actually, you know what? It was Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Westchester. Mm-hmm. So, I lived at home until my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And of course, like everyone else, they want independence. They want to go out. And, and I had, from what I thought, a really great start to a career until the age of 24.
And that was when you had your diagnosis of breast cancer.
Yeah.
So, obviously, an early age, shocking, of course. Can you share with us all of it?
Yeah.
Or what you're comfortable sharing? I mean, it's been
I'm an open
many
book.
years.
Yes, it's been many years, and I know some people still even whisper, I have had breast cancer, and I'm on the rooftop screaming it, to be like, yeah, I'm a survivor, not once, but actually twice.
Right.
So, but my first diagnosis, I was 24 years old, and I found a lump myself in my breast, and I was dismissed by a lot of doctors at the time because, people your age don't get breast cancer. So that didn't sit well with me, and I was really fortunate that for whatever reason, I really sought out the right help. And I found a guru surgeon who said, you know what, let's take a look at this. Something wasn't sitting right with her, and got into surgery really quick. And by the time I came out of it, I had her looking at me saying, I'm really sorry, kiddo, but it's cancer. And so, I just remember my family being in the room, and I don't think that any of us had expected that. So it was like, okay, what now? At that point, I didn't know getting in the car what to expect at that time. And, I did chemo, I did radiation, I lost my hair, I was out of work for a really long time. I was very fortunate that my job held, they held my position. I don't think anybody knew sort of what to expect or what to do. But I was so happy to get back to work after that. Things were a little different, though. I was growing my hair back at that time, and a young girl with even shorter hair than I do now. Trying to find your way through the challenges of getting back to normal. What was now my new normal? Your hair is your mane. I mean, this is, especially for a young woman, right? And
even the awareness at that point is not.
It wasn't
what it is today.
Even doctors didn't know what to do with me. I was that unicorn, and they would scratch their head going, wow, she doesn't really fit into any box. So they, at that time, people ask me today, well, estrogen positive, and they didn't do stuff like that back in the early 90s. You had cancer, you got chemo. This is what it was. And they literally will take you to death, and they will bring you back to life. And so it was a rough time, because now I had to move back home with my parents.
Okay, yeah.
And, to watch your parents watch you go through, this treatment, it was definitely not easy. My dad was he was military. He was a tough guy. I think that was the first time I ever saw him cry, was at that time. Yeah, it was a rough time, but I never thought that I would actually die, though. That's the one thing that I don't think I was smart enough, actually, to think, well, if I do all of this, then I'm going to survive this.
Optimistic.
Yeah, just
youth was,
I think, naive.
Possibly a part of it. Yes,
I think naive. I think there was something
What
about.
stage was it?
We didn't know.
You didn't know.
It was a solid mass. You know, it was a solid tumor. And fortunately, when they took it out, I mean, I had clean borders. So they did chemo radiation because of my age. They were like, you have a really long life to live. We have to make this work. So it was a lumpectomy at the time.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So you went on to become a mother of two.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough that I said no to some medications that they wanted me to take, because if I would have said yes, I would have went into menopause at the age of 25.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that would have been the end of the hope of having children at the time. So, you know, and my mom still teases, she's just like, wow, when someone says you can't do something, you do it twice.
Oh, I love that.
So I had two boys.
You had two
You know,
boys.
I had two boys.
Yes.
And
your oldest is 21 now.
24 is my oldest.
24
21 is my
and
youngest.
21.
My 24-year-old actually works for me. So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but my 21-year-old is a college athlete right now. So I'm really blessed.
So you did go back to work, but obviously the Drip
Yeah.
Bar is a very new
I was a
enterprise for
stay-at-home mom.
you. You were a stay-at-home mom
You
for
bet.
years,
You bet.
soaking it all in, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
You know, the sports, the driving, the everything.
Oh, I know all about that unpaid labor.
Yeah.
Labor of love, of course.
Let me
but-
tell you,
Yeah.
that was probably the hardest job I ever had, was probably being a stay-at-home mom. Yeah.
And I mean, a large percentage of my guests are those who have taken a career pause
Yes.
and come back and sought something out that's really fueling them. And so here we are now, I guess, a couple of years ago when you had the idea for this. Or tell me a little bit about the origins of, IV therapy, the drip therapy, clearly related to your interest in health for others.
It definitely was. And what I don't share a lot with a lot of people is that, my younger son, who's now 21, he was sick for 10 years. And so although I have my own health history, right, at 24, breast cancer, and then a reoccurrence of a different breast cancer at 39. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Two different cancers. At that point, I had a double mastectomy, but there was no treatment. So I was thrilled just to have the surgery.
Okay.
And now my kids are little, right? So, and I still have these little faces looking up at me. And I remember they were just like, when the meals stopped coming to the house, and they were like, who's bringing the chocolate cake? Because I was so fortunate to have such a great community behind me, and really picking up, and I mean, literally picking up my kids and dropping them home when I needed it. But when after that, we started getting it back to normal, and then my younger son got really sick for 10 years with an autoimmune. That was really rough. I had the opportunity to learn about what it was like to be the person who is unwell, and then to learn about taking care of someone who is unwell, and have to advocate in a different way, and not having an understanding of a lot in the medical department.
So it's not just you and your experience, it's your
Yeah.
son as well that's led you down this path.
And that's a different, when it's your kid. I mean, talk about being a warrior, that's when you start kicking down doors, when you're not getting the answers that you really feel you really need. So when you feel the medical, world has sort of failed you in a way, I've changed some things since then, though. I can tell you that.
in terms of
in terms of surrounding myself with people, really good humans that are really they really know how the body works, and we've kind of gotten away from very traditional medicine, and that's where my opportunity sort of came in.
Yeah, so I've been reading about the Drip Bar, obviously, and I am telling you, I'm so intrigued. I've never done it myself, but I did note something that you support is protecting health at a cellular level.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about that?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not as widespread as we'd like it to be.
It's not. And you know what I find is really funny? More people ask questions about like what's going on their deli sandwich than they do about what is going to their cellular level.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and people just don't really know. And what I remind people to say, I also take oral vitamins because I think that's really important. When you are autoimmune, especially if you have something going on, and even simple hydration, when you can get right to your cellular level, you bypass some things, right? You bypass the digestion part. A lot of times, if you're not taking let's say the correct type of, oral vitamin, you're not going to get a whole lot of what you think you're going to get. By the time it actually makes itself through you, what is really going to your cell level, right? The mitochondria is really important. It builds your immune system. It helps your energy, right down to hydration. When someone is dehydrated, right, they'll come in and, now I know I can tell right away, migraines, right? Especially women, they get a lot of migraines, usually a headache is the first sign of dehydration. And I'm the first one to say, I know I don't drink enough water. I know I don't. Very,
Oh,
very
it's a
busy.
full-time job,
It is
right?
a full-time job, right? And are you drinking the right water? So this is something, and this is why I kind of scream it from the rooftops too, is like, come in and learn about the alternatives and learn about vitamins. They're like, these are natural water-soluble vitamins.
Right.
Like we can get to your cell level.
But to your point, like all these supplements that we're reading about and taking, and especially for women 50 plus, my kind
it's
of
a lot.
category, but getting it through the IV is a different level of absorption, is what
Correct.
I'm understanding.
Correct.
So if people aren't familiar with what you're offering,
Yeah.
can you run down the list? And we are going to
Absolutely.
talk about NAD plus because that's sort
Sure.
of one that I've read about more recently
Yes.
and I'm intrigued by.
Yeah. So we have two different menus, right? So we have the lifestyle drips, which are basically your water soluble vitamins, right?
Okay.
So your vitamin C, your vitamin B, but vitamin D, for example, is a fat soluble vitamin, right? And so that's not something we drip, but we do injections, right?
Okay.
And so fat soluble vitamins, we need to see labs on those because we don't actually get rid of the fat soluble vitamins like we do the water soluble vitamins. So our protocols are really good to keep you safe. And so, for example, I'm like the vitamin D queen, just so you know. My son will call me that because people don't realize how valuable vitamin D is. It's super inexpensive. It is so needed, especially if you can be a cancer survivor. You don't have to be a cancer survivor. And I tell people the ranges are so incredibly important. So you really want to make sure that you are taking your vitamin D supplement. I always say my top two vitamins, if you're going to take it, vitamin D and magnesium, especially for women over the age of 50. I can tell you that was a lifesaver for me because we always think about energy and vitamin Bs.
Yeah.
But vitamin D, every cell in your body has a receptor for it. That's how important it is. And also it can protect your organs. It can protect you from disease. It protects you from virus. And so also what they don't know is that also helps you with brain fog, mental clarity. And so when a
Menopause
woman comes in
symptoms.
and says this to me, I'll say to her, what was the last time you had your vitamin D checked? And then how often do you take it? And it's really funny because people look at you and they're like, oh, so sometimes once in a while, once
It's
a
sitting
week.
in my windowsill. Do I take it
Kind of,
every day?
probably expired, exactly, and so, but we can help guide people through this. It's not as daunting. A lot of people get really sick when they take a lot of oral vitamins at once.
Right.
That's the other thing too. If we're dripping, and we can get 5-6 vitamins in you. We're bypassing that. We're getting it right to your cellular level, and you're not going to feel sick like that.
And you have nurses doing it.
Oh,
is
yeah.
that
I'm the business
unique?
owner.
Is
Yeah.
that because
No, they
think
must
people
be.
want to know
Yeah.
who is
100%.
inserting a needle into that? Yeah.
I would too. Yeah, I've been doing this a really long time. So the DRIPBaR, our standards are we have either RN, NP, or above.
Okay.
That's all we have. So registered nurses, nurse practitioners, and above. I'm just the business owner. I know a lot of stuff, but I will not be putting a needle in you for sure.
Right. And you have a medical director as
We
well.
do a medical director. So we're New York State federal and HIPAA compliant as well. So being a non-medical owner, I have a medical director. So for instance, you would come in and you would fill out an intake form for us. You're going to tell us a little bit about yourself because we want to be able to keep you safe, right? What allergies do you have? What medications you're on? What surgeries did you have? What are your goals?
Yeah, your
okay?
health profile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that matters.
You'll sit in front of a telehealth with our medical director, and he or she will then clear you to do this drip for 6 months. That's the law. And then another 6 months, we're going to ask you what's going on, any changes. Are you pregnant or breastfeeding? Like things change. Oh, the doctor put me on a statin, or I'm on a blood pressure medicine. We should know these things. And so we help guide our clients through our, not only through the protocols, but what's going to help them the best.
Yeah.
We don't want to give you anything that is just going to either flow right through you, or something that you just don't need. The more we know about you, the more that we can help guide you through.
Yeah. And NAD plus. I mentioned I wanted to ask
it's
you.
very, very popular. I think it's been very well known through a lot of celebrities. I think, the
And I don't want to fall prey to like
youth.
trending things
Yeah.
also.
It happens to
but
be a good one.
You're telling
So
me that this is real
it is
for its
real.
anti-aging
Yeah,
and overall
it truly is.
benefits. Okay.
It truly is.
Okay.
NAD plus. There's a few different ways to administer. There's 4 different ways. We do 2 out of the 4 different ways. The first way to get it to you, The best is IV. The second would be sub-Q. The third is going to be through IM, intramuscular. And the third is oral. In that order, those are probably the best ways to get it.
Right.
So for people, though, that are watching the clock, right, sitting for an NAD drip can be a little bit much for them.
Yeah.
So I know my kids do that. My kids do it for different reasons. So, I will tell you, they will not sit for an hour and 20 minutes to get an IV drip.
I was about to ask you that. Is that the minimum amount of time?
It is a little bit different for folks. As we start at the lowest level, we go very, very slow. We offer Zofran. It's an anti-nausea medication. If they prefer, some people don't want it. The slower we go, the less chance of this happening. It's the way that the body is absorbing it. And so the slower we go, we understand. If we give you Zofran, we've never had anybody get nauseous on us when we give them Zofran, but we try to warn people, leave some time in your schedule for it. Yeah.
No, I know a lot of friends, people that are very into this right now. It is a franchise. Talk to me about the entrepreneurial aspect of ramping up a business. People do believe sometimes that having a business model that's already been tested by a franchise makes it easier. But you were shaking your head no to me when we talked in prep.
It's a double-edged sword. I will tell you that.
Okay.
Being a non-medical
Give us the real talk.
individual. Well, it's funny because I chose the DRIPBaR for a reason.
Okay.
So I've been doing IV vitamin therapy for 10 years. So it wasn't even after my second cancer at the age of 39. I'm now 56. And so it's
I should have asked you that. You've been doing it for a while.
I've been doing it for a while, but not at the level that I do it now at the DRIPBaR. And I think that's where I went on my journey, because when I was doing it, I wasn't doing it in some fancy places. And I really was very uncomfortable with where I was doing it. I also did a deep dive as to the different ways of doing it. The DRIPBaR stands out in 3 different ways to me. And this is why I purchased this particular franchise, because I did my due diligence. I went traveling around the country and I went to these places and I asked a whole lot of really good questions. And so the first way is that the DRIPBaR is the only one in the country, as far as I know. We're the only franchise that actually has a sterilization system. So anything that is going into you is being compounded in a sterile environment, okay? So that's hospital grade. So that's number one. Number two, we only buy from the top compounding pharmacies. That's kind of a big deal. Where is that vitamin coming from? And the third is that we have a research and development team. Those folks are made of naturopathic doctors and oncology surgeons, kind of my language. And so, that is why I chose the DRIPBaR as being the franchise of choice, realizing that I didn't have that in my own community. So where would I go? People would ask me questions. And I sat back and I said, you know what? All right, I'm over 50. My kids are no longer babies. And, I think I came to that right before and after COVID. That taught us a lot, right? That taught us a lot of stuff. And so I realized that not having this modality to go to my own community was really important. But how was I going to do this?
Because they had them in New York City. Like they were cropping up there.
There's places that do drips, but there's not a lot of true IV vitamin therapy companies. And that is different, right? So this is our first bit. This is what we do. There's other places that do drips, but they do a whole lot of other stuff.
Got it.
So this is what we are experts in. And so knowing that, I was most comfortable with that, especially I'll be autoimmune the rest of my life. And I have a big community of other cancer warriors. And this is what they are looking for as well, somewhere safe that they can do it and rely on. And so there's a lot of benefits to high-dose vitamin C that a lot of other cancer survivors do, and even folks that are actually still battling doing it. And to be able to deliver it at a safe way, I am so proud that we're able to do this, because I know what I lacked. And so now whenever I, greet someone into the DRIPBaR, the first thing I do is I greet them as if I'm bringing them into my own home. And I watch, and, I have great peripheral vision, and I watch, and if I see them moving their hand in a certain way, it's like, okay, maybe they're getting a little cold, maybe they're feeling, a little numb, because people are afraid to move when they're getting the IVs. I'm like, it's okay to move a little bit, it's, you don't have to, sit there like a stick. You can move. And I can see this, and I make people feel very, very comfortable,
Yeah.
So, it's a therapy, but people think needle and they think hospital, they think sickness. It's not that. So it's actually a way to be proactive with your health as well. And that's the nice thing, is that people are being proactive. We get professional athletes, semi-professional athletes. We get high school athletes that come, because we can service 16, 17 with parental guidance, all the way up to my oldest client is 93 years old.
My daughter's a fencer on a high level, and I'm sure that she could benefit from it.
100%.
I love that you're hands-on, no pun intended, because you're talking about looking at someone's hands and engaging with your community.
I think
that matters, especially based on what you've been through.
Yes.
And all of your knowledge, which is clearly a lot.
Yeah.
So I just wanted like a couple roadblocks that you navigated as a new business owner, because people who listen to this show have an idea and are afraid sometimes, right? That's what I hear feedback-wise. Very honestly, fear of failure.
Yeah, listen,
right?
entrepreneur is not for the weak. It's definitely not.
What did you learn that we could pass along?
Yeah.
A little bit.
For me, it was the fact that I feel as though I had found my purpose, and it wasn't an easy find. It kind of found me is I think how I kind of explain it, that when I was sitting getting chemotherapy in my 20s, I never thought that I would be actually owning and holding people's hands, in my 50s in a place that was, all right, granted, it's a little bougier than where I had it done. That's for sure. We're very spa-like.
I've seen the photos. It's gorgeous.
And that's the nice thing, is that we invite people in, and I'm not gonna lie, like entrepreneurship, people say, sometimes you make it look easy, and I work 7 days a week. I work 12-hour days. I have a family, I have friends, I have a network. I'm always looking to better myself, better our products, better what we do and how we do it, and work with really good humans, So a lot of people come through, and that's another thing about an entrepreneur. You don't necessarily know, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I've learned a lot of lessons, but that's the thing. When I make mistakes, that's exactly what they are. They're lessons, and then I know, all right, I'm not going to do that again. We've had it handed to us a couple of times, but we make those changes and we move on.
Nimble.
Yeah. Someone asked me a couple of weeks ago, they were like, do you think 10 years ago you could have done this? I've really thought about that question, and I don't think I could have.
Just because you feel like the wisdom you've gained getting to this point in life is serving you.
Yes. I really do. I really think
you also have a lot of energy. I can feel it.
The life experience that
fantastic.
I have, between energy, B12 shots, diet, I've added workouts to my week, and
you are the picture of health.
I probably have never felt better in my life. And the craziest thing is that I'm on 0 medication, and all I do is drip. And people will say, like, how's that possible? And I'm like, I don't know. Other than I use my own products. Listen, anything that even goes on your epidermis, anything that even goes on your body, they say before a woman leaves the house in the morning, she put more than 35 toxins on. And to me, that's crazy. So now I really look at those labels. I put my glasses on, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I never knew. So even just putting that on your body will absorb that right to your cell level. So I'm trying to make better decisions. It's not perfect, but I'm trying to make better decisions along the way. Yeah.
Well, you're showing, not telling. You know how they say that that's the most compelling
argument?
Walk it. Yes.
You have to walk it.
So I can't believe how fast this went. But at the end of the podcast, I always ask my guests about nuggets of wisdom based on what you've been through, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But you've come out so strong. So finding purpose in your career, what fuels you, what lights you up, how do you get there?
I feel like mind, body, soul. If you have a connection with your mind, body, soul, listen to your body. It doesn't lie to you. If something feels good, it should feel good. If it doesn't feel good, my body will talk to me and it'll tell me. And listen to your intuition, your gut. Your gut doesn't lie. It really does. When you find your purpose and you can walk in your purpose, life changes. doors will open, the right people will step inside. And that's what I finally have allowed. I let go. I surrendered, but not in a way of giving up. I surrendered because I said, okay, there's something bigger than me that is out there. And it took me to opening this business in my own community, working with my older son, serving my community. And it's a privilege. It truly is a privilege to serve my own community. And when you can find that, it's not a job,
Right.
and that's what gets me up out of bed every single day. I'm going to like my second home, and I'm greeting people at the door, and it's wonderful.
And we're not pretending every day is perfect.
It is so not perfect.
But
yes.
I can tell you're loving what you're doing, and
love
that's
it.
what a bucket list
I
career
love it.
is. So
I love it.
congratulations on that.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Let's make sure we tell everyone where to go online to find you. Where's the platform where you're sort of have the
Absolutely.
most presence?
So Instagram, today seems to be the best. So we're at the DRIPBaR.Rye. You can also find us, on the web. I mean, the DRIPBaR.com/Rye because we are a franchise. But if you're local and you want to find us, we're right on 20 Purchase Street. We're right in the heart of town. We have the most amazing merchants on Purchase Street. So come and find us.
Okay. Andrea Della, owner of the DRIPBaR Rye, New York. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
I knew this was going to be good. It exceeded my expectations. Thanks for taking the time to be with me.
Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for this episode of Bucket List Careers. I'm Krista Laurie, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms at Bucket List Careers. Until the next time, be well.